Yeah, so I'm hyped. So when we have the drone, we can go out for a walk with my dog and we can just have the drone follow us.
That's dope.
It
I
can
kind of
be
want
some
one.
content for Parlor.
Yeah, maybe we can record. You can record us like an intro video, like a little intro skit.
Oh yeah, that would be lit.
Just like without a roadmap, we could just like put on a loop, like put me on the road without a roadmap. Just over and over again. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Without a Roadmap. This is the show for product folks who don't know all the answers. We plan to tell the stories of product folks who get the job done, but are still figuring it out. My name is Yonas.
My name is Cam. Yonas and myself are both PMs at Parlor.io, which is a startup located in Boston. So, a pretty interesting week here at Parlor. The CEO, Keith, has kind of took an initiative to try to create some ownership between the areas of the product between Yonas and myself as the two PMs at the company. And it's kind of led to some interesting combos between in our one-on-ones this week with Keith, and also when Yonas and I are just chopping it up in the background. Pretty much how Keith has, and the CEO Keith has kind of framed these discussions is about pretty much, would you rather be a high individual contributor, or do you want to be a manager of people? And this kind of sparked everything that Jonas and myself are going to talk about today, because we think that you can be both. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So it was definitely like caught me off guard. I think you said the same thing happened to you. He just kind of hit me up after stand up on Monday. He's like, "Hey, you got some time to chat?" I was like, "Oh, maybe it could just be like quickly something, he wanted to follow up on." And he ends up like taking me into a Google Hangout and asking like how I saw my future and like career trajectory at Parlor.
Right.
And I was like, "Damn, man, like I just like, got my coffee." But but yeah, I appreciate that he like reached out to us and wanted to have these conversations. It's very like forward thinking, for the company and for ourselves, and it shows that he cares about us and how we develop as PMs and just kind of professionally. But yeah, like you said, I think the way that he kind of dichotomized the career trajectory of a PM was a little interesting. And I know he's thinking in the lens of the future of Parlor and like where we see ourselves in Parlor, and that there might not be a need for two PMs who are managers of people. But I think just like it was interesting how he did break it down, and it did seem like he was positioning them as like these kind of two exclusive opportunities. And I think that kind of got us thinking about what the career trajectories of PMs look like. What is a natural progression for a PM. And I thought it's like, a good time for us to start thinking about this now that we're, early in our careers, but starting to get to a point where we kind of want to think about where we see ourselves in the next few years. So
Yeah, I think it was super interesting for him to say that, like, after watching the Michael Jordan docuseries on ESPN every Sunday, because in the latest episode, one of the things that Jordan's super passionate about is obviously winning, and how some people view his mindset towards winning and his style of leadership as being a tyrant. But to Jordan, one thing that really stood out to me was that he spoke about, like, if you ask any of Michael Jordan's teammates, they would tell you that Michael Jordan didn't tell them to do something that he's not already doing. So he wouldn't tell a guy to go wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go lift weights, because Jordan's also doing that as well. So he's not going to tell you to do something that he's not already doing himself, or that he hasn't already done himself in the past. And so when you're kind of thinking about the two pillars, individual contributor versus the manager of people, in my eyes, you kind of have to, like, you have to be both. Like, you can't, if you're a manager of people, you also have to be a high individual contributor, because you have to be able to show your work and show that, hey, I've been in the trenches, I've done the things I'm asking you to do, and I know these are the things that you have to do to be successful for not only the company but for yourself, and to grow your career.
Yeah. Like if you were in the army and like your captain was sending you out to battle and he's never been there himself, I'd be a little tight. And I think it's kind of the same. So it's along the same lines. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm curious, did you have a preference? Like if he forced you to choose being either a high contributing individual, high performing individual contributor, or a manager of people, could you choose one? And if so, which would it be?
Yeah, I think I would definitely do manager people 10 out of 10 times. Like to me, I've always been on a team my whole life. So I played sports since I could remember, since I was like walking almost. And so I've always been a part of a team. And I really enjoy being a part of a team and always like having like that group of people that you're going to war with almost for like, it could be for a game. It can be when you're trying to develop this new groundbreaking, innovative feature, or trying to build a company like we're doing here at Parlor. Like, I just love being in the trenches with a group of people because you just build that camaraderie. And when you get to the finish line, you think of all the memories of when like the team came together to accomplish like a big project release, a big feature release, a big marketing initiative. Like you don't really remember or think about like the times where you yourself like did this one thing that really pushed the company forward. It's more about like how the team came together to do something that you set out to do together.
Right. And you could do that as the high performing contributor, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm the same way. I think I'd prefer being a manager of people. I'm curious, like, does everybody think that they prefer being a manager of people? Maybe it was just a stupid question, because I feel like, and from my perspective, I think it's interesting to me because it feels like you'd have more say in the like product strategy side of being a member of the product team, which to me
Good
is
point.
like, the direction that I'd like to head. I think, kind of doing the individual stories and task breakdowns, being super communicative and organized, those are all things that I aspire for. But I think the thing that makes me most excited about product is the kind of ability to think creatively and outside the box about like different ways to take product and business strategy in order to kind of like further your company's goals. And I think that's the part that excites me of product management. But I think that's probably the case for a lot of people. I don't know how many people want to spend the rest of their PM career like breaking down stories. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. So a
But
vital
how
part of
about
it.
yeah. How about start off? We dissect this career ladder that you found of a super big and successful um, SaaS company, and how they kind of chart the path for PMs within their company, and how you can kind of move the ranks and the different titles you are associated with as you progress in your career.
Yeah. So actually, this was sent to me by somebody who works at this company, and so I reached out to them for some interview help back when I was applying for jobs. And I thought they sent this to me as a resource just to kind of better understand like what sort of skills I might be expected to bring to this job. But I was able to pull it back up in my email, and I thought it was really useful to kind of think about the future of your career and where you see yourself, and like what the type of steps or what responsibilities you might be expected to have at each level. And obviously this is going to vary by company. This is a huge company, so there's like 10 different tiers of product manager at the company, from like associate PM to the VP of PM. But I think it still does give us a lot of interesting insights into like how a lot of companies are thinking about this and kind of organizational structure of the product team.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't you kick it off then?
Yeah. So the first thing that we see on their list is the associate product manager title. So this is always interesting to me. I was looking into associate PM roles when I was applying for jobs, like, that as well as product manager roles. And to me, it was more important that I got my foot in the door, even though I had, like a year and a half of prior experience. I understand that, a lot of PM roles say that they're looking for 3 to 5 years of experience. So a lot of time I was actually targeting the associate PM, but I like looking at the breakdown that they provide here. Also, they break down the roles by operational leadership, people leadership, and thought leadership. These are kind of the three realms that they kind of, vet your skill set as a PM at this company. And just looking at this in comparison to their PM role, it looks like they're just looking for an opportunity to pay somebody less for like fewer years of experience, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, like one of like the people leadership, the first people leadership thing for associate PM is respected and valued by team members. Like
Yeah.
I would hope that if you if you hire somebody that that he or she's respected and valued by their team members.
Yeah, I think that there is something there though, because if you come into the job and are showing no respect for your teammates' time, and are a poor communicator, and like you make their jobs like harder, then that definitely
Yeah.
might lead to a lack of respect for you as
Yeah,
a person on
don't
the
be
team.
a bad teammate or a bad person. Like, don't be
Yeah.
rude.
The bar is low for associate PMs. So if any of you guys
Right.
if any of you guys are looking into associate PM roles, make sure you're respectful. This company really values that. It also says that they self-direct and prioritize their work and manage time effectively. So it's a lot of the stuff that you hear, like super surface level expectations for a PM. So operationally, like able to work in an organized manner, kind of comes to conversations prepared so that they are, a respected member of the community. And then from a thought leadership perspective, they're able to articulate themselves and the product to us like a basic level. And I think that is, fair to expect from an associate PM, who is usually going to be somebody that's like recent college grad, has a pulse and is able to kind of at least have the beginnings of what a product manager really needs, and kind of learn along the way, it seems.
Yeah. And then moving on to they have two different PM roles. So yeah, PM1 and PM2. Moving to those to me, what it feels like and looks like from reading it is that you're starting to take your own initiative, and you're being less micromanaged by your direct manager. So it's more so take the initiative of, hey, we need to have this thing built, and so go do it. So you're the one meeting with the team, kind of organizing the individual stories, working with engineers, working with designers if that's available to you, and stuff like that. So it's less so having to rely as much on your direct manager, and more so taking the initiative based on the roadmap that was set for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's interesting that, they're expected to help define team metrics at the more senior level of product manager, but that's not expected. Well, this isn't senior PM, but like at PM2, there's an expectation that you're, managing trade-offs between scope, estimating delivery dates, things of that nature. But at the more junior, at the PM1 level, it's just expected that you're kind of in a supporting role of that work and helping prioritize the work, problem solving and kind of helping unblock other people. So it's still kind of subordinate to the PM2, the PM1 role. But yeah, so the PM2 is kind of, I feel like I would put us at PM2, like given, the expectations here. Obviously we wear like many hats, and there's a lot more that we do that isn't listed here. But in terms of like the product related work, I think this is like pretty closely in line with where we are. And I think we're moving into senior PM territory, according to this, based on some of the
Shoo, maybe director. I'm kidding.
yeah, we're definitely moving along. So that like we said earlier, that the conversation, the one-on-ones we were just having, were about us taking leadership over specific parts of the product, and I think that might move us up a little bit in like into the senior PM role
Yeah.
range of, according to this breakdown, obviously. But who cares about titles?
Yeah, I have a point to make about that once we finish the breakdown of this chart. But moving on from PM1 and PM2, we get to senior PM, and that's, to me, that's probably more around the time where you start to kind of take a step back from the day-to-day interactions with like a Scrum team or with the engineering or design teams, and you're more so managing and coaching a group of product managers, which is, to me, in this chart, they have a separate thing for senior PM and group PM, but to me, they're kind of the same thing. It's when you're
Yeah.
taking a step back and you're more so coaching a team of product managers where you own probably like a broad area of a product, and so like you can define each your area of product into like defined roles or silos where a product manager can come in and own and drive that roadmap to deliver on.
Yeah. The difference for us is like we're doing all of that work, and like we're also the PM who is taking from that like strategic direction and doing the work within it. So I think that's the difference between product
Scrappy
managers at
man.
startups and product managers at these like multi-billion-dollar companies. But I think just given our early being early in our career, it's an awesome opportunity that we can kind of take that more high level like strategic approach to the work we're doing, but we're also getting the that individual contributor work in as well. So we're hitting it from both sides.
Yep. And then going from senior/group PM to director, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think this is real specific to larger companies because they do have like a couple additional roles above a director PM. Like there might be at a startup, you might have a director PM, and then from there, just like the chief product officer. And I think since this company has a director of PM and then a couple additional tiers, it's a little bit more specific to like owning the high level projects that are owned by the senior PMs and kind of making sure that they're following the direction of the company and that they're kind of running smoothly and kind of like it's like almost like a people manager role
Yeah,
with
it's more like operations.
yeah.
Yeah, starting to like implement product processes, how your product org runs, and like how you're delivering on stuff that your the product is going to be responsible for. That's set by either the senior director, the VP, head of product, CEO, whatever it is for your company.
Right. And it says here that they're still contributing to like new opportunities in the space and that they're like an expert in the domain. So that's like something that's going to really make you stand out. As a PM, if you have like extensive domain expertise in one area, even though you might not have as much product expertise or like experience just as a product manager, I think your
Exactly.
ability that you've kind of like honed in on that specific topic and can speak highly in it, and then also combining that with like your product knowledge is what can kind of take you from a senior PM to a director PM. And that's part of the reason why I feel like it's nice. Like for me, I kind of want to stay within like the realm of like SaaS products because I feel like there is a niche there that would help me kind of over the long term better like brand myself. So we'll see. It's still very early, but it's a space that I feel comfortable in. I think there's always going to be SaaS products, and that's like always going to be in high demand. So
For sure.
that's kind of how I think about it.
And then after the senior director, you have the VP of product, which can either be VP, head of product. Like there's so many, it just depends on how your organization is structured. But
Right.
usually that's like the highest level of product
Yeah.
role
Yeah.
in the company.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of information feeds into them, and then they kind of condense that and just like give the sign off like product strategy wise. Like a senior PM might report to their director of PM based on certain findings, and that director of PM might bring it up to the VP of PM to kind of get it signed off before they make product decisions based on
Yeah.
like the strategy and how it aligns with the company's goals.
Mhm. For sure. Exactly. Yeah. The head of product and the VP of product are like the same in my mind. They're the product visionaries that people like to talk about.
Yeah, the Warby Parker wearing,
Yeah. Shout out to Keith.
yeah. uh,
But to summarize, like the career ladder that we just went through, pretty much it's going to vary by the organization and the type of industry you're in, and kind of how product is run at the place you're either at currently or the place you're trying to break into and get a job there. So it's more so presenting yourself as a way of, hey, I have all these skills, I have all these, I have all this experience, and maybe translate it into how they structure their product org.
hmm Yeah. And kind of to wrap up, like one last question here, Cam. Like I'm curious what you think about like how to best position yourself in the hiring process for like any of these specific roles. Like, do you feel like going forward, you know, you got 5 years experience under your belt. Like how would you like present yourself differently for a senior PM role that you apply for over like just a normal product manager role, and like why, like, you know, why, how are you going about choosing what you would highlight?
That's a good question. I think what I would do if I want a more senior role, I would kind of frame myself and go into the interview thinking about the ways I've kind of like led product initiatives and how I've kind of developed my own strategy, how I've implemented my own processes, and then also like how do I say this? Like how you've brought new features that you thought of yourself, or like that you've seen from customer conversations, that you've seen from gaps in the market, like how you go about actually implementing those, and like why you think that's a good new product feature or new product platform to do for your company. Like what are like what goes into your thought process of designing new features and or completely redesigning the entire product.
Mm. Yeah, and I think we're like uniquely in a great position as PMs, like the first PMs at a startup, because we do have that leeway. We do have
Yeah.
the opportunity to kind of like have those high level decision making abilities and conversations, and so we can speak to that in the future. And you know, even though years of experience might only say we have so much experience, but you know, I think like the actual experience really speaks much more loudly.
Yeah, that's why I think it's kind of that's why I really appreciate like Keith kind of thinking through like and trying to establish some ownership, just so that when as we progress in our career, we can like lean back on that on this experience of how we started with ownership from at Parlor when the company was only like 2.5 years old, and we've led these initiatives, and this is what the product looks like now, and this is because of us, pretty much.
Hmm. Hmm. And we're establishing process along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Director of PM next up. This chart's giving me
Yeah.
bad ideas.
Hey, let me show you this Notion doc I created.
Got a whole project plan. Yeah.
But I'm gonna go on this ledge real quick. I thought about this last night before, I was thinking about the episode we're recording today. Before I do, let me ask you a question. What do you think about titles in general for your career?
Hmm. Yeah, honestly, I think titles are like, I wouldn't say useless, but I think they're BS for the most part
All
because
right, you're on the ledge
anybody
with me. You with me?
anybody can put what, like any title that they want on their resume, on their LinkedIn page, and nobody's gonna really like vet that. Nobody's going and like, I mean, actually, maybe if you put your reference as your former boss, and a company reaches out to them and says like, oh, they were a senior PM at your company, and they're like, no, they were an associate PM. But that's very rare. I have never had a situation where that's happened to me personally. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think your ability to speak on your experience is going to demonstrate your like skills and whether or not you're a suitable applicant for the job. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot that does ride on the title, namely your salary. And
Yeah.
companies can get away with paying you a certain way based on like the average median salary, so or associated with your title in a geographic range. So I think it's important to fight for the title that thinks that is relevant to you. But when it comes to your actual abilities and things of that nature, I think your actual work and how you present yourself is what's like most important. So but it's sad because you have to care about the title, even though it shouldn't matter.
I personally like hate titles. Like when I officially stepped the job for Parlor, kids were like, "What title do you want?" I was like, "I really don't care." Like, I just
that was your chance, man. You should have said Chief Product Officer.
I mean, I'm realistic. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I want to be a CEO. Like, come on. But like, to me, titles, like, they don't really mean anything. Like everything you just said, like, I 100% agree with. Like, I see why they're there, but to me personally, titles don't like mean anything. Like, why do I have to be confined to like one title when for us we do almost everything? Like, we do product, we help out in sales, doing marketing, like,
Yeah.
and so like we're a product manager, but we're so much more. And like even going forward, like I think I want to. Like, I don't think there's one title that's common that would kind of describe what I want to do going forward, or like eventually get to. And it's like a combination of like product and marketing. Like, I don't think there's like a title for that. There
Right.
could be,
Yeah.
but I could be completely wrong. But that's my take on it.
Yeah. Well, just tell them to listen to the podcast. They'll know everything they got to know about your skills, man.
Because like I was after like Keith was my one-on-one with Keith, we were talking about. Well, he asked me like what is like the title or like my career trajectory that I want, and I was kind of put it into like a story. So not a story, but I framed it as like I do want to be involved in product and like going through the design passes and like working with the engineers to see what's possible, and also having like a team of people that I'm kind of leading. But then I also want to be involved like in the marketing side of it as well. So it's like after you define and create the product that's built, like how do you market it, tell the story of why it's useful, create the value proposition, and like to me that's kind of where the competitive aspects kind of come into play. So like when you're marketing, like how do you tell a better story than your competitor to make it seem like to make it known that your product is that much better?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we gravitate towards startups, because you actually, can take on all of those different responsibilities. Whereas at a bigger company, it's always going to be siloed off, and you know that makes sense for them. Compartmentalize it, have a bunch of people kind of checking boxes. But that's part of the beauty of the startups, is that you can, wear multiple hats, like learn a lot, maybe find out that you like one thing better than the other, and kind of specialize down the line. But right now I like the mix. I think
Yeah, me
the
too.
the variety. It can be a lot at times, kind of juggling between different parts of the brain throughout the day, constantly. But I think it's part of the beauty, and keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, the beauty and the struggle.
Hmm.
There was one question that also popped up. He asked, it was like, if you had to model your career off of a person or people that you've like came in contact with throughout your career so far, like who would it be and why?
Hmm. He just wanted you to say him. The
I
sad the
think he's a
sad thing
little
is,
let down.
did you? Uh, who did you say?
I said to my former boss at Optum. I said a combination of my former boss at Optum and him.
Okay, all right.
I was like, if I can marry the two of you together, that's the person that I'd want to be.
That's is I'm glad he didn't ask me that question, because then he'd be, it shows he's not completely full of himself, because he's been my boss for the past like 5 years. So he knows what answer he would have gotten.
Yeah, because like my boss at Optum, she was like super like organized, and she knew how to like get everybody in the right positions to like make them successful and like drive the company and the team forward to deliver on completely building a new product from scratch within in 6 months. And then like Keith has like all of the visionary, all like the creative stuff of
Mm.
like copywriting, all that stuff that I do also really enjoy, want to get a lot better at.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like that's I'm missing a lot of that, and I've kind of learned from the school of Keith, because I've worked for him, for the past like last two.
Keith, you.
Yeah, I've gone to Keith U, and I think I can't hold him responsible for some of my deficiencies, but I think your experience
Working
with
on your
somebody.
PhD.
But I definitely feel like some of the like detail work, or the stuff specific to like that individual contributor work, was something that I never really got to see him participate in, because he's always been on the management team, and I've been contributing that work. So I've like gotten direction from him, but I definitely haven't been able to see the like hands-on work itself being done on his part. That was kind of me like taking his taking his notes and kind of doing the work and then taking his feedback. And that was kind of how I learned.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's that about wraps it up for us today. But for anyone that's listening, if you have some thoughts on titles, or like the associated career ladders and products, we may have completely missed the mark and just been chatting. Love to hear you guys' thoughts.
Yeah, please. And let us know if, if we should be associate PMs according to, what we've been talking about, or do we have that VP product title? Like, do we deserve that? Let us know.
Yeah. Please let the founders know that they should pay us more.
Thankfully, Keith's too busy to listen to these.
Jason, don't fire me, please. I know you listen.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you on the next one.